All right, everybody. Welcome back to Off the Record. I'm RJ Starcevic, obviously not David Schildhouse. If you can tell, David Schildhouse taking the week off this week. He won't be hosting. Who I'm filling in for David Schildhouse, who is filling in for Dave Siegel, who's not the host of the show anymore. So I'm filling in for the person who is filling in. But basically, to wrap that all up, I'm RJ Starcevic hosting Off the Record. Glad to have two great guests here with me for the first half of the show. We're going to start off with Stephen Mallozzi, who, give him a quick introduction real quick. You're making your Truck Series debut at Mid-Ohio coming up. This has been a long time coming. There's a great story behind it. We'll dig deep into that as we go into the show here, but a quick introduction, man. How you doing?
I as RJ, I said it the best. I'm Stephen Mallozzi, guy who can occasionally drive a NASCAR Camping World Series truck on a good day. Not quite a cup car yet, buddy. Slow down the roll a little bit. I'm living the dream. I'm on quite the high right now. It's been quite a week and a half since we figured out that we were actually going to be able to get something done for Mid-Ohio. And obviously we'll talk a little bit more about why when we get into the whole shebang of how this came about. But I've been over the moon elated about this whole thing. Like it's surreal. It still hasn't really set in yet.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll bring in our second guest here, Amir Alexander, working with Reaume Brothers Racing, Reaume Brothers team manager. Great guy at the racetrack. You're always everywhere. I seem to find you wherever when I'm at the racetrack. You're always doing something. You're always working on that computer too. I saw you, Brad Perez posted on like Twitter or something like that. I saw you yesterday, but you're always around. You're always hard working. I mean, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited and happy to be here. I get the pleasure of taking Stephen Mallozzi to Mid-Ohio next week. That's going to be a blast. We had a great time last summer. We're excited. I'm just chilling and digging, man. Enjoying this little bit of free time I have before on the road this week.
Yeah, a little bit. You guys, Truck Series gets the week off this week, and then you hop into Mid-Ohio, the big week for you, Steven. So kind of just briefly recap. I mean, how does this all come together? I mean, you've been working with the team. You've been doing media work for, our guys over at TobyChristieCom. You've been writing articles, and now I saw you said now Toby's the one that's got to write an article about you. So how has this all come together? And I mean, how excited are you to make your debut?
Oh God. So how it all really came together is after, there's a whole ordeal with my dad getting sick. I was a go-kart racer. I left racing for about 4 years. I decided when last winter, so like 18 months ago now, that I had never really tried to go for NASCAR as hard as I could have. I never gave it the full Mallozzi effort, that I given other things in my life, like I gave go-kart racing. So I started sending emails, and Bill McAnally answered actually one of my emails and told me to come out and do his driver's academy in California. And I was excited. I was like, this is an opportunity. I got to try it. I got to see what I can get together. And I started sending emails around. Nobody really was interested in sponsoring anything like that, whatever. One of the last people I sent an email to was the Philadelphia 76ers historically great commentator, Mark Zumoff. And he responds, because we'd been pen pals since I was 16 or 17. I'm a commentator too. I do some broadcasting on the side. And he's like, oh, I know a guy over at NBC. Now, the guy over at NBC turned out to be Michael Carey, who, if you've been a member of the Toby Christie family for a while, he was before he moved over to SRX. And Michael and I start chatting a little bit. He's a Philly guy, just like I'm kind of a Philly guy. New Jersey, they're like the same thing at this point. And he says, let me connect you to some people. And those two people were Peter Salino and Josh Reaume. And Josh never answers the email. Peter does, and calls me within 10 minutes of this email from Michael getting sent out. And he calls me, he says, listen, he's like, just keep your money. Don't pay Bill McAnally. We're going to move you to Charlotte, and we're going to get you working, and we're going to figure it out along the way. 3 days later, I am in a house in the middle of Mount Holly, North Carolina, asking myself, what the hell am I doing? 5 days later, I walk into RBR, and Peter says, sit right there, walks out of the room, and in walks Josh Reaume, who looks at me and says, who the hell are you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, what am I doing here? So in walks Peter. Apparently Josh had no idea he was showing up. He just shows up and walks into the shop. And says, it's time, like, get this kid a job. That day, I'm unwrapping Jesse Owuji's truck for the next 10 hours of my life. And I am quite literally miserable. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I don't know anything. Amir, who is not yet the team manager he is now, is just bossing me around, telling me to move all this shit, do all this stuff. I'm like, I can't handle this. I am going to die here. This is ridiculous. And I'm not even getting paid. Time goes by. I get to know Josh Reaume and the team really well, including guys like Amir, who turned out to be a good guy, even though he was a little mean to me at first. And Josh and I had a real bonding experience. He asked me to ride in the hauler with him on the way back from Knoxville. And, that was a nightmarish ride. We ended up blowing out a tire. It was 16 hours. It took forever. We ended up at Chuck E. Cheese at one point. That's a whole other story that we could go into. But Josh and I really bonded on that ride. And he had basically decided from that moment on that he was going to find a way to help me get into a truck. That's how the RBR development thing started. That's when we got late models going. We got like all this other stuff cranking, trying to get approved. And we did a bunch of races last year. And this year we kind of always had our eyes set on Mid-Ohio. But there were a few bumps along the way. But basically, Josh called me a couple of weeks ago and was like, "Hey, you're going to be in the 43. Let's get rocking on some press stuff." So it's pretty cool. And like you'd said, I've made some pretty cool connections along the way. I obviously know Mamba of Mamba Media. I know Toby really well. I still do some esports writing for him on the side. I took the week off because I've been so busy with all the jazz for Mid-Ohio. But I still can't really believe it. It's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a crazy story. You talk about Amir bossing you around on the first day. What do you have to say? What do you have to say about that, Amir?
Yeah.
Is that true, Amir?
That's very true. Very true. I was like, who is this loud kid in our shop that does not know how to unwrap a truck? He's got an Eagle shirt on. He's got some baggy shorts. I was like, this kid is a weirdo.
I actually wore, the funny thing is we talked about this yesterday when I was in the shop getting fitted for the seat. And I actually wore that same Eagle shirt yesterday underneath my RVR hoodie. And I was just, I'm a big Eagles fan. What can I say?
For sure. Yeah. And you showed it off in the shop. And for those who know Peter Salino, especially on this show, he knows he just kind of he can do what he wants, really, whatever he wants. I mean, he's the big man on campus for sure. So that's funny how you said he just walked into the RPR shop and Josh didn't know who he was. Yeah.
Well, Josh knew who he was, but Josh hadn't seen Peter there yet.
Okay.
So when he walked into the office, it's just me and undone hair, unshaved beard, kind of the way I look right now, honestly. Eagles shirt, and he's just like, who the hell is this kid who just walked into my office and sat his ass down and my shit? I'm just like, hi, I'm Stephen Mallozzi.
But that's something for sure. And so for you, Amir, I kind of want to just talk to you about how you got started at RBR. I know obviously it's another opportunity that was, provided by Josh Reaume, and, you've come a long way working for them. And obviously I met you while you were working for the Cup team, Team Hesebergs, at that Daytona test for the first time. That was cool meeting you there. But on your side, how did everything get started for you? Was it as crazy as the Mallozzi story?
It's probably not as crazy as the Mallozzi story, but it's definitely it's definitely another story that just kind of shows how much of a guy Josh Reaume is in terms of being able to make some paths and open up some doors for people that typically, don't really get those opportunities. So that was great. But yeah, I was the director of training at Chick-fil-A. I was an NTI kid. Everybody knows the stereotype of NTI kids. And he just happened to find me on LinkedIn. We matched. He asked me, "Hey, what's your career goals in motorsports?" And of course, everybody wants to be a NASCAR driver. So I told him I wanted to be a driver or whatever. And he's like, "Do you have any mechanical experience?" And I told him I had few, but I was willing to learn. And he's like, "Oh, come by my shop." So that's kind of how I got my foot in the door. I started off as a tire guy, hauler, equipment specialist. I did that, a lot of long nights, scrubbing, cleaning, running tires at the racetrack.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, kept my head down and listened and digged. And that just kind of opened the doors for me for more opportunities. There was a vacancy in kind of the administrative managerial role at RBR, and because of my Chick-fil-A experience, it kind of just slipped right in. So that's what I've been doing since about July of last year. Last year in a part-time role, this year in a full-time role in terms of the admin stuff. So yeah, it's been a blast. I mean, I've had the pleasure of meeting you at Daytona on the Team Hesburgh deal. That's a whole nother venture and journey of different experiences and people. And that was a cool deal. First Daytona 500 for me. So it was definitely a cool memory, especially being able to work with Jacques Villeneuve. So it's been great so far.
Yeah, and that means you're headed to Road America this week. I totally forgot with the Hesburghs and Sweet. That'll be a good experience. So so you're Road America, and then I imagine you're going to Mid Ohio as well with Mallozzi. So that's a double road course weekend, or 2 weeks in a row for you.
Double road course. Yeah, it should be fun. We're typically good on the road course, so I'm excited to.
Oh.
Kind of lost Amir there. Yeah, no.
Damn it.
He's back. There we go.
Amir's back. Yeah. But yeah, no, Reaume's definitely good on road courses. Huh?
Sorry, guys.
No, you're all good. And yeah, Reaume's definitely been good on road courses and the Hesburghs. Obviously, that's some of the only tracks that the 27s entered this season. I remember the funny story of me meeting Amir for the first time was basically I was going to say hi to Josh in the garage area and just say what's up to him because I hadn't met him in person yet. But Josh was actually the first person I've ever interviewed like through Zoom or like an official setup interview was with Josh Reaume over 2 years ago. And so I finally got to meet him at the Daytona test in person. And then all of a sudden, this guy, Amir, comes walking up to me. And I think Josh was the one that introduced. I can't remember if he said, hey, this is Amir, like you introduced yourself or something like that. Either way, you walked up and, clicked. I was like, what's up? And then I remember the first thing you told me, you were like, yeah, we had a photographer here and they crapped out on us and they left. And so we have no photographer. And so could I use a few of the photos you got, or you want to get photos? I was like, sweet, sure, let's do it. Like I'd already, had fun working with, doing some media stuff with like Reaume in the past, just posting about you guys and doing interviews. So I was like, sweet, let's do it. Let's get a little Hesburgh photo shoot going on then. So that's what we did. And I felt bad. I was like, damn, you guys had a photographer and they just crapped out. They just
happened.
I guess it does happen in the business. Huh? That's rather unfortunate.
I feel like it's an unfortunate. RBR needs a string of good luck. I feel like we've had some pretty strange situations over at RBR, and I've only been there like 13 months. I haven't even been there as long as some of the guys have been there. So I will say though, Amir brought up a really good point about Josh Reaume. Like it goes so underappreciated, the amount of diversity, not just diversity, but opportunity that Josh has created and allowed for on his team. And like you think about it like, we've had such a wide range of drivers from such a diverse series of backgrounds that have been in RBR equipment. And I just feel like he never gets enough credit for it. The guy is all about making opportunities for these drivers. And, he comes across as big jokester, goofy kind of guy. But if you crack away the layers of that Josh Reaume nut, deep down, there's a big old heart at the bottom. And he's one of the most passionate people I know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm glad to be sitting here with you guys that were gifted an opportunity from Josh. So it's glad to learn about your guys' stories. We'll be back right here on Off the Record to learn about more. And we're back here on Off the Record. So I had a thought we were talking about earlier. You mentioned Chuck E. Cheese and you said there was more to that story. So we got a little more time here. What more to the story is there about the Chuck E. Cheese stop on the way back from Knoxville?
So one of our hauler drivers had, just similarly to the photographer, our hauler driver pre-Knoxville had decided not to drive the hauler to Knoxville. So longtime RBR mechanic Matt Wolper who we all love the Wolf. Nobody dislikes the Wolf. And Josh ended up having to drive the hauler. So on the way back, we're at the track. I didn't pack my bags or anything. My bags are still back at the hotel, 50 minutes outside of where we are in Knoxville. And Josh asked me when the race was coming to an end if I wanted to go back in the hauler with him. I'm thinking to myself, shit, no, I really don't want to go back in the hauler with Josh Reaume. But you know what? It's a great bonding experience. We'll get the opportunity to get to know each other a little better, talk. So Matt, gets us out of the track, and then about an hour in, Josh switches and drives. And I'm up through the night with him talking, we're chatting, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We go to the world's largest truck stop and get some Wendy's, chatting away about everything ranging from financials to world finals to go-karts to stock cars to whatever you could think of, we talked about. So the next day, Josh and I, take a little rest. And I am jolted awake by the hauler coming to a stop. And it's because we had lost a tire. Now it is Saturday at this point, and it is late day, so everything is closed already. So we are kind of looking for some emergency tire help to figure out. We go to all these truck stops, nothing. We get nothing from them. We get no help whatsoever. It might have even been a Saturday. It might have been a Sunday, and that might have been the problem. There was some issue where everything was closed, whatever the logistical time frame was. Everything was closed. All the loves were closed. Truck support stops closed. Weren't able to sure if they can take us, whatever. And we couldn't wait 2 days to get the hauler back. Like, we needed to get back ASAP. So finally we find somebody to help, and they tell us to take the damaged hauler a little bit of a ways away and just leave it there for the tire guy to come. But we're all starving. And obviously you're in a hauler, you can't take it to the drive-through. So we walked through a Steak and Shake drive-through we walked to one about a mile away from where we were, literally across a huge, not like a highway, but an extremely busy directional road. And we walked through the drive-through of the Steak and Shake because it's still COVID, nothing's open. So we got to walk our way through. We don't really take orders from people who aren't on cars. I'm like, listen, I'm having a bad day, man. Just take our freaking order. Please, God, we want some Steak and Shake. They do eventually give us a Steak and Shake, but Matt's not ready for us. The hauler's not ready, and we don't really want to walk back yet. We were going to have Matt come get us in the shopping center. And the only place that's really open is a Chuck E. Cheese. So we walk on over to the Chuck E. Cheese, and Josh and I ordered a pizza. We ate said pizza after we had just gotten Steak and Shake. We don't really know why we did that, but we did. And then we put about $20 in the machine and started playing some skill games together. And this was not like a big Chuck E. Cheese. Everybody there was basically 7 or 8 years old with their parents. And I feel like when we were playing basketball together, we got a lot of weird looks. And I actually tweeted a picture at the time that was like, hey, it's not every day you get to go to Chuck E. Cheese with a NASCAR team owner. So I bet you if you really wanted to, you could find that picture of Josh eating Chuck E. Cheese pizza and put it right over our faces for now and edit and show that. But yeah. And then Nat came and got us and basically bullied us for an hour for going to Chuck E. Cheese as a 31 and 20-year-olds at the time. It was pretty freaking ridiculous, I would say. But just one of the things that happens, man, when you take a shot and work for RBR, I guess, huh?
Wow, that's honestly better than I expected.
Yep.
You said you were playing basketball, the basketball machines with Josh Reaume.
Yeah. So you're gonna ask me who won?
Oh, who won? I was playing.
So we did 5 skill games. I don't remember what the 5 were, but I like basketball was one. One was like the milk jug thing where you throw the balls into the milk jug. Like we were doing those, and we were keeping track. And I think Josh ended up winning 3 games, and I ended up winning 2. So I think he got the better of me there. But yeah, that was a good time. That's one of those things that, one of those memories that I won't really ever forget. So
was this during the day or was this at night or?
It was maybe 4 in the afternoon. Like it was not.
Okay.
It was pretty early. Like there were, yeah.
It was a long drive. So eventually it had just gotten to that time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think Knoxville is what, 6 hours? Maybe 18 hours.
It's an hour.
It's far, but when you factor in stops, when you factor in traffic, when you factor in food, fuel, all that stuff. It probably took us about a day to get back.
I know it's great. It's great to hear the everyday stories of kind of what goes on, because a lot of people don't hear those. And I guess that's the focus of this podcast here, off the record, right? The story.
Yeah.
We want to tell the stories that are untold. So like Amir, I know is on his way to go get some. So what was it, new shoes for Road America?
Yeah,
You're gonna
I
be walking a lot.
Road America. That was a 4-mile track. I gotta get some comfortable.
Yeah, and I think I need to do that too.
Happy.
Yeah. Oh, baby, keeping the dogs happy. Oh God.
Yeah, I'm tired. I get tired of walking around the tracks for so long. Oh my God, it takes a toll on my feet, and I don't really have the most comfortable shoes. And what sucks is the job I had before, all I did was stand and walk, and because I was back, cooking or working at the register, like in concession stands, and all I did was stand for 12 hours a day, and it sucked, and my feet hurt really bad, and I didn't learn from that. I didn't bring more comfortable shoes to the racetrack. So, I'll wear usually Sunday race days. I've gotten into the routine where if I'm going for the whole weekend, I'm gonna wear the Jordan ones on Cup race day, right? I'm gonna wear the Jordan retros. Is it the most comfortable on my feet? Not at all. But sometimes you just got to do it.
Absolutely not.
They feel terrible.
You just gotta do it. You gotta be drippy.
You got to be drippy, exactly. So,
I disagree. So I spend exactly. See, these don't even have freaking laces. I spend exactly $80 every 2 years on shoes. Not $1 more, not $1 less. These bad boys right here are I don't know. They're Christmas of 2020, I think. So I still got another 6 months on these before I can get my new $80 pair. You got it. Yeah. I am not freaking spending money on shoes. Okay. I spent $1,100 on my second fire suit yesterday. I don't need shoes. I'm spending all this freaking money on race car driving. I'm okay with a $42 pair of Nikes, whatever the hell they are.
God. Yeah. The thing is, when it rains, it sucks. When it rains, it sucks. Because I just found these next to me. I wore these to Talladega. And
oh baby!
It rained. Baby. It rained in Talladega the day before, and Daytona. I think it was either Daytona or Talladega, and it rained, and they dried the track and everything like that. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing the pre-race grid walk. I was like, I'm gonna go walk in the infield grass. So I haven't really been able to do that often. And so the first step I took, I drowned. Oh my God, it was horrible. And all of a sudden my shoes were
terrible idea.
That was a horrible idea. And I'm never doing it again. I learned that though. I learned something every time I go to the racetrack. So that's what I learned. I think Daytona weekend last August, last year. I learned that. So I won't do that again. The shoes are still a little bit beat up from just walking in the infield grass, but yeah. Oh man, I'd like to take a little survey on what shoes everybody wears in the garage, because I need some advice, something to put in my shoes, because you can get those insoles and stuff right, that makes it more comfortable.
Yeah, I'm in Ohio. I'll be wearing racing shoes if that makes it feel any better.
Yeah, that'll be fun. You'll be driving though, your adrenaline. You won't even be focused on your feet. You'll just be going. But yeah, that's kind of the centric here, man. Stephen Mallozzi is making his Truck Series debut at Mid Ohio. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and it all happened. I remember you were talking about it. We've been talking about this all year, on and off. Man, you want to make the truck star, and bam, finally happens. Mid Ohio, the road course. We're out there testing on iRacing, man. You almost. Where did you finish in that race where we ran?
Oh God, I wrecked in the last lap. I think fighting inside the top 10 or something.
Last lap crash. I got taken out by Jack Wood.
I would like to say RJ, while he's in my top 5 favorite podcast hosts, bottom 5 all time drivers. I mean, it's bad. It was. I'm telling you right now, RJ at Mid Ohio was pretty ugly.
I gotta explain myself. My wheel broke, so I was using my Xbox controller. So my wheels broke. I gotta get a new wheel. I did good in the 24 hours of Daytona with the Toby Christie crew. Wasn't that bad. But now I gotta. I was using an Xbox controller. I was racing with Malaz, and I thought I found a groove, and then I got taken out by Jack Wood. Jack Wood's AI took me out, and I was pissed off, so I kicked him out of the race.
I'm Jack Wood's AI. Nice.
I disqualified him. He was pissing me off. He wrecked me twice.
For a reason, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So But man, yeah, that'll wrap up, man, this first part of the podcast. I got to thank you guys. Can't thank Amir and can't thank Stephen enough for joining me. And we'll be back to for some more second half action here and Off the Record. And welcome back here on Off the Record. Thanks again for Stephen Mallozzi and Amir Alexander from Reaume Brothers Racing for joining the show. But now we got a new guest here for the second half, my good buddy Matthew Narvaez. How you doing, man?
Hey, RJ, how are you? It's nice to be on here. I know we've done a couple of driver meeting podcasts a couple times, and it's nice to finally be back on a pod. I've been working with Toby Christie's website for a little while now. Been kind of the second guy over at IndyCar for a little while. For probably the last 2 months since Barber Motorsports Park was my first race. Went through the whole 6-week excursion through the Indianapolis 500 qualifying through Indy 500, and it's been a whirlwind, but I've learned a lot, and it's been fun.
Yeah. So kind of tell us, just I guess as a brief recap, we were just talking about Truck Series with Reaume Brothers Racing and everything like that, telling some stories about there. You being on the IndyCar sides brings in, a whole different spectrum. Like how are things been? Kind of just give a recap, from a media fan standpoint. How's the IndyCar season, been this year for you as far as like interest level? Are there any, storylines that people should know about as we kind of reach the latter part of the season?
Yeah, definitely from my perspective of things. Like I've never followed IndyCar this intently ever. Like since 2016, I've been following it, but like not necessarily every week because maybe NASCAR was on at the exact same time, or life gets the best of you on Sundays or something like that. So yeah, I've been intently watching it from practice to qualifying to race. Right now, Penske's looking good. Joseph Newgarden's got 3 wins, on the season. It really comes down to this latter half of the year. Like this is the second half of the championship now. They just had a 2-week break. Last race was at Road America, where Newgarden did get his 3rd win, $1 million, won the $1 million prize from the People Force for Good Ready Challenge. So yeah, it's been a quite interesting year. Like Andretti's really fast on Fridays for practice. Heading into qualifying, like they qualify kind of mid-pack-ish. And then you expect them to come back in the race, but because of their qualifying positions, they can't get higher, they can't get the track position and get better finishing positions. So, yeah, I mean, like Andretti's been there. The speed is almost there. They just got to translate it to Sunday. They got 3 of their cars in the top 5 at Road America. Team Penske's been fast. Like I said, Newgarden's got 3 wins, and then you got Scott McLaughlin. He opened up the season with a dominating win in St. Pete. Will Power's got the win at Detroit. He's only like a couple points off the championship lead, or I think it's about a 27-point championship gap right now from Marcus Ericsson to Will Power. So Chip Ganassi got the big win at the Indianapolis 500. Your reigning series champion, Alex Palou, is still looking for that first win. So Aaron McLaren SP is right there as well with Pato O'Ward. He's got a win. Felix Rosenquist is announced to come back to McLaren next year. So there's a lot of things going on, but the most exciting part to me actually is to see Paretta Autosport come back, right? Paretta Autosport is a focused women team, women forward team. And they've come back. Last year, they ran the Indy 500. This year, Beth Paretta, the owner, she went ahead and allocated all the money from the Indianapolis 500 into putting into 3 races. So Road America this week, and then 2 weeks ago, Mid-Ohio now, and then I think they go to Nashville, the next race, the Nashville Street Circuit. So it's been really cool to see that team like progress over time. They've got more sponsorship and stuff like that from KiwiCo. That was actually my first report that I had to do on the site for IndyCar. So yeah, it was it's pretty cool to see that team grow and Simona Di Silvestro come back. For the last 2 weeks, things have been kind of quiet in IndyCar, to be honest with you, except for another woman driver. Unfortunately, she lost some sponsorship here. Rocket technology company has had some financial issues in the past. They used to be a part of the Williams Formula One team, and I think they had like a couple unpaid millions of dollars to them after sponsoring them for 2019, 2020-ish. So yeah, it's pretty sucky news when a sponsor leaves a sport like that. And it's not confirmed yet. I mean, the 11 car is sponsored by Rocket from AJ Foyt Racing, and the 14 is as well from the same team. But the 14 is not dependent on sponsorship. Just the 11 is. So the 11 for Tatiana Calderon, we don't know if she's going to continue after this weekend. So yeah, just really unfortunate news there, but we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully maybe they can resolve those unpaid issues, or they can find maybe a replacement sponsor. But obviously, we know in this world, it's kind of tough. Like, look at what's going on with Kyle Busch and replacing M&Ms, right? Maybe they got something, maybe they don't. We don't know. But yeah, so just a lot of things going on. And I'm really excited for the second half of the season going forward to the championship. I think a lot of people's pick was Joseph Newgarden after he won those 2 races, the second and third race of the season. I think after we go through the first couple of races, Joseph kind of was hot and cold. He was winning races, or he was 14th the next week. Now he's got that win at Road America. We'll see what he does with it. And then going forward, Alexander Rossi's on a really, really hot streak right now. He has 3 straight top 5 finishes, 2 podiums, 2 podiums in the last 2 races. Maybe Scott Dixon makes a last minute push for this championship. Or, Will Power's right there. He has not started a season better in his career. Will Power at 41, 42 years old has not started a season better. He's looking really, really good. And he's like super consistent. Like, other than his bad finish in the Indianapolis 500, I think he had a poor finish at Road America with the problem with Devlin DeFrancesco. He has all top 5 finishes, more or less top 4 finishes, I believe, including the win. So he's right there in the thick of it. Marcus Ericsson has an Indy 500 win. He has to maintain through the summer months. We'll see how he does that for the first time in his career. Nashville's coming up, where he won last year. So we'll see how all that plays out, but it's definitely been an exciting and hectic IndyCar season. Coming down to the kind of the stretch of it here.
We got Iowa coming up as well, right?
Yeah, Iowa after that, it's a doubleheader race. And it's the week before the Indy road course race, the second trip to Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the second road course race of the year. But yeah, doubleheader at Iowa. I'm really excited for that weekend to come back for that racetrack. COVID hurt that racetrack. I think, with the Xfinity and trucks not going there anymore as well. ARCA went back there, right? I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's kind of getting back into motion, and Hy-Vee has put a lot of money into it. Hy-Vee, I think they're like some convenience stores or something like that. They put a lot of money back into the series. They're sponsoring Jack Harvey pretty much on a full-time basis with Rahal Letterman Lanigan. It should be a really exciting weekend. They're getting some country music artists out there. I think Blake Shelton's going to be out there with a couple of other big names. So really excited for that weekend. I would love to go to that weekend, but we'll see how that works out. I only went to one race so far, which was the Indy 500, which was such an insane time. Obviously, we went to the St. Pete Grand Prix, but at that time, wasn't writing for Toby's website there. So yeah, it's been a wild experience, but for sure. I mean, I'm we watch NASCAR or Formula One or IndyCar, and as much as I love road course racing, I really like oval racing for the IndyCar. So super pumped to see Iowa come back.
Yeah, going to be a lot of fun. Good to preview the IndyCar season. We'll be back with more here on Off the Record. And welcome back here on Off the Record. And as you noted before we took the break there, you went to the Indy 500, you went to the Brickyard, you got to experience that weekend covering it for TobyChristie.com. So, man, I got to ask you first, how was it?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've experienced a lot of races like myself. I've personally been to about 11 Daytona 500s as a fan. And I'll be honest with you, the Indy 500 is an experience like no other. I know, like, this is such a cliche, but it's truly an amazing time. I mean, compared to the Daytona 500 and how much I love stock car racing compared to how much I love open wheel racing, you don't go to an event where 400,000 people are there, but they're not just there for the race. They're there for the city. They're there for the state. They're there for the track. They love it. They live IndyCar racing. And I just, when they did the flyover originally, like right before the race, I was standing a couple feet away from Takuma Sato. And this is all like my first weekend as a media member as well. So this is just like, wow, the driver's right there. Wow, I'm here. Now the access is here, blah, blah, blah. So before the race, I gave myself enough time. I was writing up some stuff for Scott McLaughlin and things like that. And before I finished that, right after I finished that, I went out to the racetrack. I saw some, media members along with me leaving from the media center to go onto the front stretch. And I pass all these different drivers. I want to go to each car, get a picture of every car, post some stuff on Twitter, some pre-race things. And I ideally wanted to stay on pit road for about the first like 30, 40 laps in my head. That's what I wanted to do. But before that, is really when the most exciting stuff happened, because you see all the drivers before they strap into the race car. I'm kind of everywhere, but I'm also right where I need to be at the right time. Like everything happened perfectly. Like I'm passing Jimmy Johnson right before he hugs his family and gets into the car. He's saying hi to like some sponsored people, stuff like that. But when we're doing the national anthem, Takuma Sato is just a couple feet away from me. I see Joseph Newgarden in a perfect eye line to the left of me. It's just like a crazy experience. And all this is happening for the first time where I'm allowed to be wherever I kind of want to be, you know? So yeah, it's just, it was an insane experience. The media like industry was kind of opened up to me a little bit more in that way. And it wasn't even NASCAR. Like IndyCar is a little bit different. Some people, have, some people have different agendas when they go to an IndyCar race. Obviously there's different drivers, there's different teams, different people within the media center. I had a good person to kind of walk me around some things and take me around town to also see like the strip outside, the main street outside of Indianapolis. Learned a lot about IndyCar that weekend, went to the museum, saw Bobby Labonte and Alan Bestwick right next to me. Like literally right next to me, just looking at cars, kind of just enjoying their time. Rick Mears was going to show up and do a little press conference kind of thing. So yeah, it was just an unreal experience. Wish I stayed a little bit closer to the track. I stayed about like 30, 40 minutes away from the track, but it worked out for the best. And yeah, just an insane experience. But for sure, the Indy 500 altogether, watching the race as well was fantastic. Been to about 4 or 5 IndyCar races. That was about my 5th or 6th one. So really, really, really a great time, truly.
Yeah, for sure. There's nothing like being at a racetrack, and definitely an Indy 500 is definitely, like you say, and a lot of people say it's on my bucket list for something to get to. And being at the Daytona 500 at first, was great to be just on pit road for that. And it's like, you always get, like you were talking about, you get those surreal feelings where you're just walking around and you're being like, wow, I'm here, this guy or this guy, icon, insert name of driver is walking right next to me kind of in the Cup Series. And so for me, like, you getting covered at IndyCar, I'll go to the racetrack and, obviously covering ARCA for Toby Christie, and then still doing work covering trucks. And I love Xfinity. I love to cover Xfinity. And then those Cup days on Sundays always feel a little different for me because I don't really have much to do. I'm still going to, cover it on my Instagram, the NASCAR report, but like, it's really more to just kind of like take it in, walking that grid, I don't know as many people in the Cup, grid yet, I'm hoping to obviously in the future, I love my guys, Josh Bilicki, Cody Ware, BJ McLeod that I usually get to talk to before Cup races. Welcome back here on Off the Record. We're going to quickly wrap it up here, but I do have a question for Matt, and I'll get my answer as well in a little bit. But the question that I thought of is, what is the most surreal moment or surreal thing that's ever happened to you as a racetrack?
Yeah, this one's not too recent, but it's definitely the first big experience I've had at a racetrack. The first race I ever went to was the 2011 Daytona 500, and it was the first race I ever watched as well. So, and going to every Daytona 500 since. Never watching one on TV. It's, that's just a crazy thing to think to myself in itself. But that first time around, I met Jeff Gordon by the motorhome lot, and he was heading out of the old press conference booth over there, the media center. Mm-hmm. And me and my dad tracked him down, and he was walking down with a security guard. And my dad's like, Jeff, please, one quick picture. And at the time, I really didn't even know what Jeff Gordon looked like, because I knew he was like my favorite driver. My grandfather watched NASCAR for a little bit, but I had never paid attention to it before. I mean, you know that too. So yeah, I never paid attention to it before. And so I didn't really know who Jeff was too well, or like have like a true appreciation for him. But then over time, maybe kind of grew into a little bit of a fan of his. So yeah, meeting Jeff was just really cool. The security guard said, no, Jeff has to be here on time or go somewhere on time. He has to go put on his fire suit, get ready for the race or whatever. And Jeff said, no, that's fine. We can take a quick photo. So he took a nice photo with me. I have it framed, here in my house. So it's pretty nice. It was probably the most, not necessarily surreal at that time, but quite like I got him at the last second. You know what I mean? First off, we weren't even supposed to be over there. Second, just following Jeff down there, him being nice enough to take a photo, and then growing an appreciation for Jeff and all he's done for the sport and stuff like that has definitely been pretty cool, and still rooting for him from an ownership perspective. So yeah, it's out of all the stories I had, that's probably the best one. And obviously, hopefully there's many more to come.
Yeah, for sure. I do remember hearing that story when it happened, or at least a
Yeah.
little after it happened, because I knew you always went to the 500s, and I remember we probably talked about it after that. But as far as me, mine comes, I think about 9-10 years ago when I was at Coke 400 weekend, and I'd always be there just for the practices. We never rarely went to that was the time where we'd always just drive about 3 hours up from Tampa to go to the practices on Friday. Friday. Yeah, I believe it was Friday. And so we'd go for the practices, sometimes stay for the Xfinity race. But we'd get fan zone passes. The fan zone passes get you ticket to the infield. And obviously for people who haven't been to Daytona, they got a great, fan zone area. It's very large, lots of places to go, get to go behind all the garages, lots of food, amenities, everything you can ask for. But one of the things was the media center. And you get to stand outside the media center. A lot of people would wait for drivers on practice day because they'd go in there on practice day, do their media session, and then take the walk back to the garage, which nowadays they don't really walk through the fan zone anymore, at least from what I've seen. But they used to just walk straight through the fan zone to the garage area. And so I was there, had all my Kevin Harvick gear on. I was a little Kevin Harvick fan. And I remember him walking out. At first it was just kind of like Michael Waltrip was walking out. I think Michael Annett was walking through, and then all of a sudden Kevin Harvick, and I ran up, and there's a lot of guys, pushing their die-cast cars at him and everything like that. And I walk up with my, little 29 hat, like a Kevin Harvick 4 shirt. This was his first year at Stewart-Haas Racing. And I walked up, I'm like, Kevin, and he had a pen in his hand. And, I remember just him looking down at my little tiny figure down there. And he was just like, nice shirt, man, or something like that. Or he said that, and he either signed my shirt, my hat, I can't remember. And then I just, as a little Kevin Harvick fan, thought that was like the coolest moment ever. And then my little brother, who was probably like 6 at the time, followed me. He ran, and then all of a sudden he's in the middle of all those like big dudes trying to get an autograph from Kevin Harvick. Yeah. And I remember, like, I still have a picture of it on my back wall there. I remember, like my little brother Ryan is just like in the herd, and I remember Kevin had to like grab him, and it was like, whoa, like, and kind of just like made sure everybody cleared the way and kind of made sure he got out of the pack of like people so nobody ran him over. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool too. But obviously, my brother, he's always going to find himself in some sort of trouble or log jam. Yeah. So that's what he did on that day. But yeah, that was definitely really cool. One of the most, surreal moments. And I always remember, because it's one of the only things kind of hanging up in my room right now is pictures from that day. Man, it's been great to have you on Off the Record. We're going to wrap it up here. It's great to have Stephen Mallozzi on, Amir Alexander. Wrap it up with Matthew Narvaez, IndyCar truck analyst for TobyChristieCom. Great to have you on, man, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks to everybody for tuning in for Off the Record, and we'll see you guys soon.